All right. Hello, everyone. This is the editor group product design UX research weekly sync call for March 31st, 2021. Um, I don't have any topics on the agenda, so I'll hand it over to Michael. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, yep. So we jump straight into the world of research this week. And we're taking our lens off from settings and navigation for a few days to look at the web IDE and the editing experience for exploring how we might edit using like a rich text editor. So for the web IDE one, what I'm actually looking at for that one is exploring Dennis's proposal of removing the one tab um, of at the moment we have like code, review, and changes or commits. So those three tabs and then become one. What's that called is kind of part of this solution validation, but there's also another proposal that was created a few months before we started becoming the consolidated group of the editor. And in that one, a designer, Mike, there, not me, um, was looking at potentially moving completely away from the layout that we have now and then presenting things in two separate lists of like changes and files. So more humanistic labeling on our web ID thing once you get into it. So played around with some of those explorations and I'm testing out how tree whether we should have a tree navigation when we show changes or the alternative to that is doing what they do in Visual Studio Code where you just list the files and then you have like the path to the file in kind of like grayed out text. There's pros and cons to both. So that's what the solution validation is all about. So once that comes out, we'll have a good vision. We'll uh, probably likely we're going to remove the tab, but it's more like future looking of like, okay, which direction of that future state of um, making the web IDE a little bit clearer to work with um, would we be going towards? And that was one of the questions like, do we make the one step to remove the tab now and then do all this logic to change it? Or do we just make the giant step to jump to the other ideal state? So that's the root cause of that web IDE. The editing experience one is really fun because that's going to be a solution validation where we're actually going to get people to type using the TipTap framework. So putting together uh, example of all the things we want in our editors. So TipTap provides a bunch of examples. So I'm just gonna Frankenstein one together and use that to see how people interact with that editor. So the key thing around that one is that I'm not going to show the toolbar in any of the solutions is to force people to interact in a new way and seeing what the feedback on that would be. So it won't be a choice of here's the toolbar and here's something you can do. It's just going to be go ahead and do it. Things will appear like speak out loud and tell us what you expect to happen. So that's kind of the direction of that experience. So working on that at the moment, and then hoping to get that out early next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, because of the long weekend. So that's the things in that area. And then once that happens, then I'm probably going to shift back a little bit to settings and nav to handle any solution validations that could be done now and most more on the documentation side moving forward. So yeah.
That's great. I just made a couple notes as you were talking, and thank you because actually the other topic that I couldn't remember that I wanted to bring up was one of the ones you mentioned. So I did finally get to watch that video of you and Mike, the two Michaels talking about Web ID. It was really a good video. It's on our playlist for anybody watching along here. Go back and watch it. It's very insightful. I was especially interested both in the consolidated like sidebar, but the explorations for like a split action button, depending on where we go with our different paths. We have like an issue in the backlog for generating like patch files from the web ID if you can't commit, or maybe you can commit, or saving those to snippets, or generally alternate paths other than committing could be a really interesting thing to introduce into that commit button as like a secondary action. And then obviously I really was intrigued by how you wanted to use the information we learned from the static site editor and the commit flow there. To be frank, I'm still a little concerned about introducing a modal there, but I can be swayed. Just I'm biased against modals, but right now I guess the like sliding tray is effectively a modal. It's just not taking over the screen. So 6 in one, half a dozen the other. But otherwise, yeah, I think I'm really excited in that direction. I think it is a great place we could be investing in after we hit our goals for 14.0 and turn our eyes back to the web IDE. I know there's a lot of state management cleanup and performance optimization and refactoring of the sidebar that we need to do anyway. So it could tie nicely into that. We can talk more about that with Roman and probably Paul and Himanshu as well. And then as far as the TipTap editing experience, 2 updates on that. I saw your message about the toolbar and using that as the MVC. I'm comfortable using that so that we can keep moving forward, knowing that we might, depending on the outcomes of this research, just shift our longer term goal, even if we have to have our first couple MVCs using the toolbar and then redo some work. Hopefully it won't be too much lost work. I still maintain that an ideal framework would, the consumer of the editor, as you're instantiating it, you could potentially opt into either experience, because if we're going to make it reusable across GitLab, there might be times where the toolbar is more fits better with the use case. I'm thinking like comments and things like that. So I don't think it'd be necessarily wasted work to move forward with a toolbar, but I think for longer form writing, my hypothesis is that the block editor will be more enjoyable. But I'm good with waiting on the outcomes of that research and see if everybody else agrees. And then also separately, and maybe this doesn't need to be recorded, but I managed to get in touch with the TipTap maintainers, the folks that made TipTap, and have email contact with them. They're very excited to hear that we're using TipTap, and I'm going to try and trade some emails, see if we can set up some information and help each other out a little bit. So more information on that as I get meetings made and Zoom calls scheduled.
Cool. Yeah, that comment around consolidating the commit experience is probably going to be a really fun one. Also, from a collaboration standpoint with the pipeline editor team, who's also looking at this. So, yeah, yeah, there's fun things coming up over the next few months.
Yeah, or next year. So actually, I've got some notes that I made right after your meeting because I couldn't help it, but I have like this I don't know if the light's gonna, this outline of all the different like areas of the editor, the components that we need to kind of split up and make progress towards more modular experiences, so that our vision of in-context editing, where an editor can progressively become more complex as the use case needs, and we don't have such a clear like distinction between web IDE and single file editor, and we can be a little more nebulous there. There are different maybe modes or modules or whatever that I was sketching out after, kind of inspired by your talk. So I'm going to tighten that up over the next few days and turn back around and share it. So yeah, it was a very inspiring chat.
Awesome. Look forward to seeing those ideas.
I'll pretty them up on my iPad for you.
Perfect. Dust it off.
Yeah. Get it away from my kid who's playing on it. All right, Catherine, you're
Yeah,
up.
and my last one is more of an FYI. So, on the trying to get ahead of maybe some of the conversations that Michael might have as part of the mock up work for the proposal for the left nav, I want to kind of look to see if I can gather existing analytics related research and kind of explore some of those questions before I'm out of office, and then I'll be gone for a little bit. And then when I come back, I plan to pick up just like the work on evaluating that proposed structure from SAFe. So that's the plan there. I just linked two issues that kind of contain some of the plan and the questions that are related to it. But yeah, that's just an FYI.
Cool. Enjoy your well-deserved time off.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it. I just was like, I guess it's been a while. I should
Yeah,
do that.
you should.
I should do that, and you should too.
I
Anyone
should.
on
I
here
should.
who is
Next week,
thinking about it.
I didn't realize next week is my son's spring break. I thought I had a little more time, but I'll probably be in and out partially. I'll try and be responsive though. It's not official vacation, but we'll see.
Yeah, but
How long is
that's
spring
it
break for
me.
your for kids?
He's in preschool. They're taking Friday off, so and then the whole following week, and they're back in on the Monday after. So it's 6 days off school, but it spans like 9 or 10 days.
Cool. This year's my daughter's first year in like school in Australia, and they have 2 weeks breaks every quarter. So like now they get 2 weeks, and then they get another 2 weeks later. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool that things are consolidated like that. And then yeah, when it's winter in North America, it's summer here, so they get their longer break there. So I'm like, oh, it's a different structure from when I grew up. But yeah, it's yeah. So I'll be taking a few days off here and there over the next 2 weeks. That's what I was alluding to.
Cool.
That is
Enjoy
great.
your time off, Catherine.
Thank you.
Chad, before we wrap, anything you want to bring up?
No, thanks for all the hard work.
Thanks for joining.
Thank you. Too.
And thanks everyone for your chat. And I'll see you. Well, maybe we should. It sounds like Catherine, you'll be out. Well, we could probably just do this async next week and pick it up the following week.
Sounds good.
Cool. All right, everyone. Have a good rest of your day, and I'll talk to you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Right, see you.
See you.